Thank you, Riv. I like to hear that, looking at growth as an entire team and organization for CLG. A win for them there, but Coast didn't give it to him easy, and I want to look at Champion Select because I feel that Coast's bans were pretty indicative of their first pick, Kalista.
Yeah, we were going pretty crazy here on the desk. Saw the Vi, Jat's like, that's a good one, and then they banned Lissandra, and I'm like, whoa. Does MASH play Kalista? And then they banned the Ahri, and that was a dead giveaway because that's a Jez's champion. And when you have this type of ban phase going for you, you want to have them last ban the Ahri because the threat of Jess's. But when you don't ban the Kalista, that should tell CLG, since we have seen Double Lift on it, that you want to play that champion. And when you ban the point and click CC, that's definitely a giveaway. But CLG had faith in the fact that they, from first round, pick a Nidalee Jarvan. They're like, we will hit our skill shots on her and make her irrelevant.
It was so strange because we have seen, whoops, good thing I have another one. We have seen
backups, so many backups.
so many teams pick Kalista into stuff like Vi, Lissandra, and Ahri and get destroyed. And people are like, that person can't play Kalista. But actually, generally, if you can reach Kalista, you can shut her down. So I was really scared for CLG in the early game for giving up Kalista and actually not banning it because their last ban was Gnar. I thought for sure they just banned Kalista. But CLG has so much faith in their ability to outplay the opponent. They were like, okay, they'll have Kalista. As long as we can get Morgana and we land one bind eventually, we'll kill her.
Well, as you said,
has to be logical.
There was a lot of fear, though, for the fact that they did give up the Kalista. We're going to pull up our first replay, which is the early kills that Coast was able to secure for themselves with some sensational, individual outplay. So we're going to roll this out real quick. I mean, this first one here by Chris, the use of his Q, knowing that it resets on a minion that he does enough damage to in the back is just phenomenal. To avoid the CC there as well on Sion.
And then, whoop. Right back to the other one. I mean, a total outplay. Then Zion and Spartan can't even get the ult. At this point, you're kind of starting to think, yeah, this is a game CLG could lose, especially here when they're able to turn around the binding onto Kalista. Just the presence of mind here for Sheep to say, okay, I'm actually going to fire myself back into this fight.
Right, we got this. Let's go.
It was absolutely beautifully executed there. Taking the lantern, flashing out of the tether range from MASH so he doesn't get stunned, being able to do the Fates Call and throw him back in after Afro had burned his flash, so they knew there was no escape there. It was really beautifully executed, and you said CLG have faith in their playmaking. I think they might have been a little overconfident there.
And that's why it kind of seemed like they might lose this game from a viewer perspective because they had a composition that required them to outplay the opponent, and they were actually getting outplayed.
Yeah.
In the post-game interview there, Link, we suspected that they actually did want a 2v1. He confirmed it, so that does change your decision-making in-game a little bit. When you're reacting on the fly, you do tend to make a few more mistakes like that, or you're more prone to being outplayed. But then again, CLG still did win.
Right. So I want to figure that out. I want to figure out why that happened, because all signs point to that should have been a Coast victory, coming out with Aurelia ahead of Sion, then, growing his CS lead to 90 CS as well as the kills advantage. Kalista was 3-1 while Double Lift was 0-3 at one point, and yet they didn't come out with victory.
Coast is becoming the poster child for not knowing how to end games. The first 2 weeks, they had gold leads in all of their games. Last week, they fell even farther and didn't get the gold leads, but this is a return to that beginning problem. And Zyring can probably go into it a little bit.
Yeah, I also think it's how they allocate their gold too, what they spend it on. Zion Spartan, all armor. He did not have a hint of magic resistance except for his boots. But then you look at things like what Chris was building, what Impaler was building, prioritize magic resist early. Then later on, they were like, let's build some armor. And then by that point, Double Lift had already gotten off the ground by farming. And vision, I think, is actually the biggest thing for me here. I talked about item builds, but vision in your inventories and vision on the map is huge. They are not pushing up and then putting vision down when they get those turrets. They pushed up, they meandered around, and that's why Chris has so much CS. He had like 80 up over Zion. He's pushing top lane, and then he's doing nothing. He's pushing, backing off, because he doesn't have the ward control in that side of the jungle to continue his pursuit of the turret, and then they don't capitalize on it. It's really confusing to watch them play. Coast are good players, but as it stands right now, they're not a good team. And CLG is playing the team game better.
There seems to be a lull when we get to that stage of the game where just as you're talking about, teams are attempting to push lanes, but they don't have the vision control, and it really slows things down. And if you don't have a big enough advantage, it looks, CLG is able to take that opportunity and turn things around.
Yeah, it's happening all over the world in League of Legends right now. Those second-tier turrets are pretty hard to push early on in the game, especially with Dragon not giving you any gold early on. So a lot of times you're kind of gated by the respawn of the Dragon, and you have to play a very clean game in between Dragon respawns, which is what Coast did not do because of poor vision control. And I like to call them garbage kills because they're kills that just happen and no one really earned them, but it's what got CLG back in the game. They killed the split pushing Chris, they caught Mash with the binding, and voila, they get a third Dragon, the gold is even, they can now win.
All right, I do want to jump into our second replay, which is the 35 minutes in around Baron. Because I know, Zyrene, you want to break it down a little bit in terms of positioning and the engagement as a whole. So we're going to pull that up.
Yeah, you're going to see here, it's a great engage here. Like, it's the right decision to take a fight at this point. But what we see is double lift. He stands off in the side brush. And we see Sheep walk up. He scouts this. He's all right there sitting on top of Ward. Boom, gets pulled in. They actually see this coming because Mash is on top of Ward. They know that they're about to get engaged on. But double lift just puts pop shots in there. And Chris does not go on him. Chris does not stun him. Chris does not stop his damage output. And that is huge because the output of a Jinx is much higher than a Kalista in a standing still team fight when everybody's on top of each other because of the splash.
That fight happened and it surprised all of us because previously CLG had swept a ward out of that brush. They move away for a second and somehow Coast gets a ward in. So CLG should have been caught completely unawares. And they were, except double lift just happened to be in the right brush. And Chris, we've talked about this a little bit. He's either the greatest player, he had a 10-1-10 game on Aurelia when they beat Winter Fox, or he looks bad. And this time, he did both in the same game.
Yeah.
You can't be both, Chris. He destroyed early, and then in that pivotal last endgame team fight that swung the game, everyone's in a clump, and the main damage dealer is over here, and you're a single target damage threat on Aurelia. Hit the dude killing your team. Don't just walk into the ball of death.
Exactly.
Walk into the ball of death.
So unfortunate for Coast. Things were looking good for them. They still are on that losing streak. CLG, though, holding on to their first place position. Keep it tuned right here, though, and we'll see what the Winter Fox says when we come back and they take on Team Impulse in our second match of the day. Stay with us.
I feel like
Dude, I hope they change that picture over there of Reggie with his arm raised to they dye his hair pink in the picture too.
Oh my god. Jumps to a melee. Chris dodges a Zion Spartan. Ultimately gets slowed. In comes Impaler. The counter dig means first blood. Oh, knock up the flash engage on a Link. He flashes out, takes a black shield. Smithy in the front line, forced to flag and drag away, but the flash.
Don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move.
The Coast to make that one happen. Wow, they jump in on top of a ward.
You guys got this, you guys got this. Sheep, exhausting Mash. Close. Chris. Get Baron.
In comes Chris, loses half his health before the fight even starts. Jess is trying to make big plays, but gets extremely exploded. CLG remain in first place after a well-controlled siege.